If we somehow miraculously make it, we will have the new problem that Welcome back to the Mentor Roulette grind, and once again we have a bunch of extremes. Just to clarify, this set was done a few weeks ago, as usual, which means that this set of duties took place before the new Dawntrail relic weapon step herded everyone to do a ton of Dawntrail content. And now, for duty 1, we start off with M5N, Arcadion's Dancing Green as Viper. And this fight went incredibly well, so here's a couple of random tips for the fight. The spotlights you need to dance in move in a super predictable pattern, so you can often determine where the spotlight you want ends in time for your debuff to time out. Due to the length of the dance, it can be an advantage to do a longer GZD just as it happens if you can. For Viper, while you do have a bunch of options in that regard, all of the coil moves have 2 follow-up OGZDs that mean you don't really want to be stunned for the GZD length itself. But Vicewinder and Ouroboros are both perfectly safe, and if you can make that magic happen, the dance might not cost you any uptime at all. A little fun fact about the Frogtourage dance is that if everyone dodges all of the half-room cleaves, then the party is granted 1 full stick of butter for the limit break gauge. Not that we really need it nowadays, but it is an interesting detail that I think many believe is exclusive to the Savage version. Now, that said, Duty 2 is a pretty big spoiler for the Endwalker leveling story, being the first trial, so if you don't want to see that, jump to this timestamp here. For Duty 2, we went to Zodiac as Reaper. Quite fitting, don't you think? Overall, the fight went well, although in the middle part, both of our healers died once each, which could have become scary if the team as a whole was more shaky in performance. This is a very awkward level range for Reaper though. Arcane Circle is available, but Plentiful Harvest is not. Enshroud is available, but the OGD follow-ups and Communio are not. So the Enshroud burst is kind of compared to what it could be, but you also just don't get one in the opener. That all being said, we also managed to use the Limit Break 3 for damage without the classic Zodiac curse happening of the raid going down just as the Limit Break is fired off. For Duty 3, we went to Ramuh Extreme, once more, as Monk. How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? Like genuinely, how many times? This is getting old. Like you. Anyway, on the first attempt, things were looking good enough, but I think the tanks weren't quite sure on the orb mechanic, leading them to overcharge and making it harder for the healers. Although they were both scholars, so Lost Raid could sidestep that problem for the most part. We made it all the way through the ad phase with this chaotic approach, and then just as it ends, both I and ZR get feared, with no blue circles to save us due to the phase transition. And SR doesn't seem to pay it any mind and doesn't try to extend their overcharge, and so we lose both tanks and then everything falls apart. To clarify on this, being overcharged by some amount isn't a complete catastrophe. The problems arrive if you are deliberately doing it for nothing, or just hang out fully overcharged, as it makes it super hard to heal you normally. By staying not overcharged, you have some give to offer if something should go wrong. For example, if your co-tank is feared or for some other reason cannot take over for you, you just need 1 orb to stall for about another minute. But if you're already at 2 or 3 overcharge, your healers might not have the resources to maintain that if they didn't plan for it. This is a sort of advanced detail of tanking Ramuh Extreme, but paying attention to both yourself and your co-tank is crucial to reliably beat this fight, especially if you can't know for sure that your co-tank knows what they are doing. For the second attempt, we did go over the orbs and such because of how much trouble they caused. Ilana was here to provide the French translated version too, so our European team all can follow. Nice. As we go in, it seems like either one or both tanks are accidentally messing up or didn't quite understand the explanation, as they both eventually end up overcharged at some point by some amount. But we do make it into the final phase with only one person dying twice. But as we pass into the last 20% of the fight, ZR goes down, but is immediately raised, so we might just be fine. ZR gets ready to tank switch, but gets feared first, and so SR, whether deliberate or not, chooses survival and grabs 1 extra orb to extend their buff. And we make it to the finish line with everyone healthy and safe, although one of our healers seems to have been completely drained of MP. Well done, team! For duty 4, we went to O5N, Omega's Phantom Train as Black Mage, and this run went well. It is just Phantom Train after all. But we have sort of visited this fight a couple times recently, so instead let's review some Black Mage tricks. Yippee! At level 70, where you have triple cast but Foul isn't instant yet, this trick is a bit awkward to get just perfect, but overall, quite easy to do. I call it the double dip. As you finish an Astral Fire state, which you can do including Flare or not, the damage difference is minuscule, so I recommend using it for metering out the timing of other things or simply for preference. Then, you reapply your Thunder as it is your only reliable instant cast option. The weaving window provided by Thunder allows you to transpose and triple cast, which lets you instant cast Blizzard 3, about 87 potency gain there relatively speaking, instant cast Blizzard 4, that one's gratuitous, and then transpose again to instant cast Fire 3, as the half cost from the Umbral Heart very much makes it worth it. The average potency per second of doing this is greater than not using transposers, because you avoid a bunch of weaker versions of spells. What makes this awkward is that you might reach the point where you need Thunder for the instant cast too early in the sequence, or you have to choose to let Thunder sit unapplied, which is also not optimal. What you can do then is use Thunder when it is needed, and then chain swift casts and triple casts to get to the double dip, or at the very least the instant cast at Blizzard 3, extending with more instant casts to drag the transposing opportunity from Thunder all the way to the end of Astral Fire as needed. It is pretty fun and is made more challenging by the fact you don't have much in the realm of instant casts at this level. For duty 5, we went to Titan Extreme as Pictomancer. What really makes this fight awkward in Mentor Roulette is that most of the fight is just dodge Ramuh. So when things go sideways, there isn't too much you can give when it comes to advice. As a tank, get Titan out to the edge, so you have more room to slide for the knockback. Take note that there is a debuff that motivates a tank switch at some point, and also it is a frontal cone cleave, so don't stand on your co-tank. At a certain point, Titan spawns adds, which need to be stacked on top of each other and moved out of the way. Well, need is maybe an exaggeration, but it helps a lot. The last thing that isn't just dodge Ramuh is the jails. The two jails need to be far enough apart that the tether disappears, otherwise they get a massive defense boost. Yes, you can break them anyway, but it is certainly preferable to make them softer. Optimally, have one player get jailed under Titan and the other far away. Break the one under Titan and aim to get yourself knocked back to the one far away and help them then. Why not sooner? If you break out both immediately, then the distant player will get shoved to their death most of the time. You also have plenty of time after the knockback to deal with it. Overall, this run went decently well, with just the one attempt needed, but just as we hit the final phase, things started to get awkward. When the tanks die to a landslide, and I make the mistake of saving the jailed healer early, causing them to fall to their death. And in an instant, we're down a healer and 2 tanks, and Titan starts rampaging. But he is also at 8% HP, so with 4 DPS still alive, 3, we choose to just rush him down first, which works. Very nicely done. For duty 6, we went to Qitana Ravel as Dragoon, and this went very well, so let's talk about the final boss. Eros has 4 mechanics worth talking about. The first one is Hound Out of Heaven, which is pretty clearly indicated, but simply put, if the tether is on you, move away until the spiky pink tether is replaced with a purple tether instead. Then stay away until the boss dashes at you. The second mechanic is Viper Poison with Heaving Breath. You might think placing the poison bottle carefully is important if you get a marker for it, but you can knockback immune the knockback, and if you have a gap closer, you can cancel a knockback entirely by timing it well. The third and fourth mechanics are the Confessions of Faith, where either the boss shoots a cone straight down the middle of the arena while putting spread markers on players, or the boss shoots lightning to the left and right sides while putting a stack mark on someone. Quite funny is that as a result of the spread and stack accompanying mechanics, as long as you respect those, you're already probably moving reasonably correctly for the breath attacks themselves, and only get in trouble if you seem to try and ignore both. For duty 7, we went to Porta Decumana as Summoner, which is a job that I definitely say is well kitted for phase 1. Every time Ultimate Weapon stops you from attacking for a while, it mostly means you don't get to cast Ruin 2, reducing the amount of meh filler you need, since at this level, Summoner's Rotation has like 40% or more filler due to how the Titan and Garuda ruins are mostly just mobility options, or an opportunity for slightly more auto attacks at this level. And then, for the chain. For duty 8, we went to Castrum Meridianum as Bard. A funny difference between level 50 Bard and, well, level 52 Bard and above is that since you only have 2 songs, instead of cutting songs short and having to manage all that, you want to use Mage's Ballad with all the other cooldowns you have, while Army's Paeon is a 45-second song that just has to happen somewhere in a 75-second window of downtime, quote-unquote. I do sort of like this extra room, making the job a bit less frantic in these levels. For duty 9, we went to Bismarck Extreme as Machinist. On our first attempt, we ran into some issues with the Serpent intermission, so let's talk about that. In the Extreme version, the Serpents give you a debuff that makes it so that if you attack the Serpent that matches the color of the debuff you got, then while your damage does work, it will swing back at you, which can make it very painful to do. But in some cases, especially as a tank, simply hoping you will get heals to work through it and standing your ground may be better. Optimally, each tank grabs a Serpent, then get their debuffs, and determine whether they swap Serpents based on that, as they will always have opposite debuffs. However, what ended up happening is that one of our tanks was trying really hard to make the other tank play ball, but it didn't work. So we wasted so much time with the Serpents too close to each other, so we couldn't damage them, so we couldn't make the DPS check and wiped. We reviewed this problem and then went into attempt 2 where the Serpents gave the optimal debuffs to each tank so a swap wasn't even needed. Often, the Serpents die fast enough that a swap won't be needed ever when that happens. We also almost one-cycled Bismarck, so the rest of the fight was quickly resolved with a lightning phase. Very nice. For duty 10, we went to Garuda Extreme as Ninja. On the first attempt, the adds were simply not handled very well and not separated correctly in the slightest, so we didn't make the DPS check and wiped. For the second attempt, we got so focused on the adds that we forgot about the Satan Plume, and it slapped us just enough that a tank died, caused absolute mayhem, and both healers went down and it was over. On the third attempt, we immediately gank the Satan Plume when it appears and blast down Shirada as quickly as we can, as once she's off the field, Sapana is an easy target to deal with. Before they even got their mitigation tethers up, Shirada was almost dead. And, with the ad phase cleared, we quickly wrapped up the fight before Garuda could get around to doing much else. Very nicely done, and still surprisingly quick despite the issues we had. For duty 11, we went to Arf as Dark Knight. The duty went pretty well, but we did run into some small problems with Asian Prime at the end. The first dual star took out both of our DPS due to the quick 1-2 explosions. If you have issues with this combo, my advice is that you can survive one hit, so simply dodge the 2 fire explosions and let yourself get hit by the ice. Assuming, of course, that you simply cannot move in time for the mechanic, which I have heard some players have trouble with, which could be latency related. Thankfully, the second time dual star came up, everyone survived and didn't even get hit, so we managed to get through this last part of Arf as fast as we could, I suppose. And finally for duty 12, we went to Vanguard as Scholar, and our tank was really blasting, seemingly using gem drafts, and probably unsurprising given that, we sped through the duty with no issues. So here are a couple of tricks for Scholar specifically. When running between pulls, using Swift Cast for Aetherochemical on the tank can be very handy, since at that exact time, you have nothing else to spend your GCD on. But the tank is probably outrunning you if you cast Aetherochemical. Some like to use it with Recitation as well to guarantee the crit. Second tip is that at level 78 and above, making extensive use of Sacred Soil, even if only the tank benefits, is great, since it heals for just as much as loss rate over its duration, and also reduces damage taken. And the third tip is to make sure to use Chain Stratagem often. In an AoE pull, put it on the chunkiest boy if you know which one it is, or on the healthiest one if you're not sure. Remember, you need to spend your cooldowns to get more, and you will probably get a Chain Stratagem on every boss anyway. A pretty nice set of extremes when none of them went on for that long. For those that don't watch the live version of these Mentor Roulettes and wonder how I tend to so consistently get through the extremes, I do want to highlight something. We do have some queuing coordination to get a bunch of mentors into the roulette at once. This sometimes means that we cover multiple extremes at once with mentors landing in different parties, and sometimes we all land in the same duty. It might seem like cheating, but what I think is more important is that we make these extremes clear more consistently for the sprouts that want to try it. It also hopefully motivates other mentors to give it a go more when extremes appear to go fine more frequently. But indeed, the fact that this is recorded live totally impacts the success rate. Take for instance the Garuda Extreme. We had a lever just as the first pull started that was instantly filled with Agent Monica from the stream. Anyway, we try our best to help and have fun, and I hope you still find it entertaining and maybe even inspiring to watch just the same. That said, we passed 5/6 on the achievement this time. Now, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to support me and my channel more directly, you can become a member like these wonderful people here. You can also alternatively support me through Twitch or Ko-Fi, links in the description. You can also support the channel by letting the YouTube algorithm know by liking the video, leaving a comment, subscribing, sharing, and hitting the bell to get notified when next I post a video. Fun fact, Evercold was revealed to introduce a new feature where you effectively get action skins for jobs. The example image shows Dragoon performing the animation of Ring of Thorns, which is an action that was removed with Stormblood. Originally, Heavy Thrust was where your damage buff came from as Dragoon, which was its own separate GCD from the combos, and it did break combo. However, it was also single target. Ring of Thorns was an AoE follow-up after Heavy Thrust that just did damage. Weird, right?